Right. So welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining in for the session today. This would be our Kickstarting Your Career as a Data Science series. And we have our amazing speaker here with us, Niharika, who would help us shed some light on your interview process from start to finish, how you can prepare for it, what are the things that you should highlight on your CV, and what can you expect during your interview prep. So Niharika, if you can tell me how you're doing today and give a little bit of introduction about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So, hello everyone. Thank you for joining in. I'm Niharika. I'm currently working as a data scientist in Walmart. Prior to this, I was working with Microsoft, also as a data and applied scientist. I have an MTech from IIT Kanpur and a BTech from an IIT Hamirpur in computer science. And I mostly work in the area of NLP and sometimes vision, but it's mostly focused on natural language processing. And apart from this, I also do mentor people, helping them out with the technical interview preparation, with the mock interviews, resume reviews, etc. So yeah, that's about me.
Great. That sounds so exciting. You can definitely talk to her you can connect with her later on LinkedIn and have a one-to-one mentoring session as well. Cool. So let's start our session. Niharika, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, today, whatever I'll be speaking of is based on whatever experience I've had till now in during my industry experience of like around 2.5 years. So this session basically consists of 3 things. The first is how to make projects. The second part is tips for applying. And the third part is how to prepare for the interviews well. Okay. So the first part, to actually get to an interview, you need to have a decent resume. And for having a decent resume, you need to make good projects. Now, what do I mean when I say good here in terms of projects? So whenever you're trying to build any project, one of the most important things to notice is that quality of a project is far more important than the quantity. So invest your time properly and in building 2 to 3 projects rather than making 10. So instead of trying just one approach in a project, what you can do is you can try multiple approaches. Now, let me give a small example for this. Let's say you're trying to build a diabetes detection model. So it's a simple binary classification model where you're trying to tell where the model is trying to predict whether the person has diabetes or not, right? So what you can do here is, let's say you're trying to build it using a decision tree. Now, the binary classification problem can be solved using a lot of methods, starting from logistic regression to decision tree to SVM, or even you can go for a deep learning model to predict this. So the point to note here is, instead of trying just one approach, go for multiple approaches and try to compare them, do experiment well with them. And also, there is no Mang specific project that will help you land a job. The resume, so basically the quality of the project improves when you try multiple approaches instead of just one. Another thing to note is, we all know that a lot of codes are available online and a lot of people tend to just copy paste everything, right? So instead of just copying the code, you can copy while you code. So what happens is, it gives you a better understanding of what you have done. And in every interview you go for a data science role, this is one common question which will be asked to you everywhere, that can you please tell me about some recent project you've done, which is exciting, or you have to talk about one of the projects. So be prepared for all the approaches you've tried and the reasonings behind it. Understanding why is one approach working better than the other. So there has to be proper time investment in every project you do. Now, coming to another point, which is spending time on EDA. So instead of jumping on to which model you want to use in the project which you're trying to do, you should try to spend time understanding the data and analyzing the data well, whether the data is imbalanced or not, and so on. So since every data set is different, this is a very crucial step, not just in a project you do, even when you start working in the industry or any project you pick up in your company. This is the first step, and then comes the data model building part or the model evaluation part. Now, once you're done with your entire project, you can also blog about whatever you've done so far, starting from feature selection to the approaches, to the challenges you've faced and the results you have. And this is a very good practice if you upload your code on GitHub and you properly make a README file also for it. So this even helps you later for future purposes, so that you have your code somewhere safe with you, right? And another thing is that you can share your progress on LinkedIn with whatever you've done. This also helps you network, and people working in the same domain. Basically, you can network with people working in the same domain, right? Can we move to the next slide? Okay. So be open to failures, be open to rejections. Everybody goes through it. I have gone through it. I think everybody goes through it. But in the end, if we learn from the failures, that is how we realize that, okay, there comes a day when we actually qualify an interview, and that happens for everybody.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, Niharika. I remember when I was finding a job, and I used to get like 15, 20 rejections a day. So everyone who face rejection or who gets these kind of rejection like every single day, they're like, oh my God, I can't do anything. It's not working out. So be patient, trust yourself, trust the process. And definitely there would be a time that you're going to get something special, something important.
Okay. Now coming to the second part, which is how do you apply for a job? So the first thing which is very, very important is tailoring your resume based on the job description and the job role. So let's say you're trying to apply for a job which is a data scientist role. And let's say you have 4 projects on your resume. 3 of them are data science related, and 1 is a distributed systems related project. So you need to be really careful what resume are you actually sending when you're applying for a job. So let's say one more example would be that some teams are computer vision specific, right? So it will be better if you put more of your computer vision projects in the resume than NLP or speech recognition projects in it, if you have them. So that's one thing. Another thing is, now when you apply, you can apply trying via different job portals. It could be Naukri.com, it could be LinkedIn Jobs, it could be Hirect, it could be Indeed. But be updated and apply as soon as the post is published, since there is definitely a lot of competition, even in tech. So there is a lot of competition. So being updated is one of the things which can help you out. And try using different keywords when you're trying to find relevant jobs. So, for example, you're trying to find a job for the role of a data scientist. It is possible that there is a job role named applied scientist, but the work is same. Then there is data and applied scientist. Then there is machine learning engineer. So you can try using all the keywords based on the job role you want to go into. Now, one of the most important ways of applying, and which gives you the maximum chances is applying via referrals. So referrals definitely increase the odds that your resume is being seen by a recruiter or a hiring manager. Now, how do you apply via referrals is the question. So let's say you are trying to apply for a company, let's say Amazon. So the first thing you should try to do is try to search for your ex-colleagues, your friends, your seniors. If you know somebody who is working in the company, and if that person has worked with you, that's the best case scenario. So you go and ask that person for a referral. If not, if that's not the case, then you basically search for people on LinkedIn from the same company. In this case, it is Amazon, and then ask them for a referral. So now another question comes like, how do you ask for a referral? And I think this is very, very important. So these are the 4 things you need when you're asking for a referral. So these 4 things should be present in your message when you send that. The first thing is a brief introduction about yourself, your background, why are you interested in that job role, attach your resume, and attach the job ID for which you want the person to refer you. Now, what happens a lot of times is, a lot of times people send a message saying hi, okay? So then you don't get a lot of people interacting on it because nobody has that much time in their day. And a lot of times what happens is you're not sending the job ID. So firstly, the first thing you should try to do, everybody should try to do is try to find a job ID, a job opportunity which is open through LinkedIn or other portals. Search for the job ID, go to the careers portal of that website, you will find the job ID, and put that in the message. Because if you don't, there are a lot of people who get so many pings for referrals, and then people cannot really serve. Let's say you're getting 30 messages a day, you won't be able to find a job ID for all those 30 people. So it's better, the chances will be more that the person reverts to you if you put the job ID in that message, right? So this is very, very crucial, I feel.
Niharika, I think we have skipped one topic, which is finding. Yeah, so if you can elaborate on that.
Yeah. So another possibility is that you find area-specific startups or companies, or if some company is trying to like expand in a particular area which is of your interest, then you can find that. And especially in case of startups, people usually respond even if like you tend to message the people working in the startup, and also sometimes the co-founders also tend to reply on LinkedIn. That's what I have seen. So this is another way you can look out for a job and apply for a job. Okay. Now coming to what data science interview rounds look like. So there are 4 kinds of rounds which are present. The number of rounds could be more, but these are the like broad categories which exist. The first one being machine learning breadth round. So the breadth round consists of the fundamentals of all the classical machine learning algorithms and basics of deep learning. Now I'll give an example of like one question in each of the sections, in each of the 4 categories. So for machine learning breadth round, one of the questions could be like, what is the intuition behind the learning objective of SVM? Or another example could be, there is a very basic algorithm called logistic regression, right? So what is the loss function used in logistic regression? Tell the formula, tell the mathematical formula. So a lot of times people tend to miss knowing the mathematical equations, but machine learning is nothing without those loss function equations. And I have personally experienced it in all, especially including all the FAANGM companies and the startups. They tend to ask such kind of questions everywhere. So you should be prepared with all the mathematical formulas, not missing out negative signs also. because they are also important. Okay. Coming to the second category, which is machine learning depth round. So in the depth round, what happens is they pick a few algorithms, but they deep dive into it. So let's say during the interview, they pick decision tree. So then decision tree question could look like, when do you think a decision tree starts overfitting? How do you identify that? How will you tackle that? And then they deep dive into it. So then if your answer is related to ensembles, then they'll move to ensembles. So decision tree could go to a random forest, and then it could go to an XGBoost also. So they deep dive, they pick one or two algorithms and they deep dive into it. That's what machine learning depth round consists of. Coming to the third round, which is machine learning design round. So design is basically use case based round, which will contain of a problem statement, which either the team has worked on already, or the team is working on currently, or they have in their charter. So they present the problem to you and they ask you, how will you solve it? An example could be, let's say if it is Amazon, so then they have a catalog consisting of all the products, right? So they could ask you, design a similar item recommendation system, where you will have a product. Now you want to show all similar items to it on the page. So what they expect as an answer is, so there is no right answer in the case of design. You could think a different way of solving the problem. But what they expect as an answer is, what features will you select? What will you use as the data, as the training data? And then which model do you want to use? Which loss function do you want to use while building that model? Which metrics do you want to use to evaluate your model? So basically, it starts from data preparation, data collection, to model building, to model evaluation. They want an entire system as an answer. So that is what machine learning design is. And mostly what happens in machine learning design round is the interviewer has actually worked on the problem statement and the same problem statement comes to you. That's what usually happens. Now coming to the fourth thing, which is a coding round. So there is a misconception. A lot of people feel that in the data scientist roles, there will be no coding round, which is not true. So as all the companies I've interviewed for, including all FAANGM companies, there is at least one coding round. So you basically cannot get away with it if you're even applying for a data science role. And so basically brush up your lead code style problem solving skills, which you definitely need. If you want to clear an interview for this role, you really need your coding skills prepared. So be prepared for it. Okay. So doing projects are basically the best way for an interview. Deep dive into whatever you do and have your reasonings right. So reasonings are very, very important. To be very honest, nobody is interested in knowing that, okay, you can use a library to implement an SVM. You know how to use sklearn, that's not enough. So you need to have your fundamentals right. That's the basic formula for clearing any interview. So the first point is prepare from your projects. Like I even said before, so explaining, so be prepared. There is one question everywhere that you have to explain at least one of your projects. You should be prepared with all of your approaches which you've tried so far and the results. And let's say your project was something like that, you had to build a big model in it. So you couldn't try multiple approaches. Let's say that's the case, and you tried just one. So one of the questions which come in that case is, you should have done full research about it. So one of the questions which was asked to me in an interview was, okay, fine, you implemented this approach, but can you tell me some other approaches? Have you researched about them? How do you solve it? And why did you pick this particular approach and not something else? So basically be prepared to answer the why, how, if questions which are going to come your way if you're interviewing. That's one. The second thing is, once you are done revising your basics and once you're done with preparing all your projects, then definitely give mock interviews. If you have friends who are in the same field and can help you out with mock interviews, that's the best thing. Go for it, practice with your friends. And otherwise, you can also go for online websites like Preplaced, interviewing.io, and topmate.io. So I take mock interviews on topmate.io and I have used it personally, so I can vouch on that website. And then before going for an interview, do research about the company. You can learn about the interview questions, and if not the interview questions, at least how the interview process looks like from sites like Glassdoor. A lot of people put their things on it, whatever their experiences are. And you can talk to people working in that company via LinkedIn. If you have some friend or senior ex-colleague, that's the best thing. They'll give you an honest review about the company like no other person. So, and you can also read about their culture, because a lot of times there is a round where they ask, okay, why do you want to join this company? So you should have like a somewhat brief answer in your mind before going for an interview. Okay. So during the interview, the first part for every interview is like give a brief introduction about yourself. So that should be like prepared. That's like a fixed thing you have to say wherever you go. That's one. Now, the most important thing during the interview, I feel, is understanding the question well. So gain full clarity about the question before jumping on to the solution or the approach. What happens is sometimes we do not really understand the question and we are halfway through and there is no way we can reverse that time. So it's better that whatever you've understood about the question, you communicate that and you explain that to the interviewer and just verify, okay, is my understanding correct? So that you are sure that you've understood the question properly. That's one thing. The second thing, which is very important, is that the interviewer is not as much interested in the final solution as he or she is interested in your thought process. So do not stay silent during the interview that, okay, you're 10 minutes, you're thinking about the solution and then giving the answer. Instead, whatever you're thinking, whatever your thought process is, keep on communicating that. Now, one more advantages of communicating your thought process is sometimes we are literally going in the wrong direction when we are thinking about the solution. Then the interviewer actually tries to help us and the person will give you hints. Now we should be careful and we should take those hints. So that is, I feel, taking hints is also a skill. Sometimes we are so stuck in one direction that we cannot even think of any other thing. So if the interviewer is giving us hints, take those, try to rethink of the solution based on the hints given by the interviewer. Now coming to the last part of an interview. So in the end, in every interview, they give like around 5 minutes where you can ask questions. So one should definitely utilize that time, because you can basically talk to the person to understand what the team is like, what the work culture is like. And one of the questions could be that you can talk why they actually enjoy being there in the team, in the company. And if the person who is interviewing is a hiring manager, so I feel one of the questions you should definitely ask is, where does he think the team is leading in the next 1 year? What is the charter? And how do you fit in? What is the exact work they are doing? So that you understand whether it is even good for you, even if you qualify, whether it makes sense for you to get in or not. So that becomes very, very important.
Niharika, I think, is it something that the recruiter wants you to ask question because they just want to see, have you, done your research? Are you even aware of what a company are, or have you gone through a culture? And is it promoted, or is it good to have that, to ask that question? Is it important in that way?
Yeah, so if you are really interested in joining that company, you automatically have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So there might be a case that you are a shy kind of a person and cannot ask. That's another case.
Right.
But if I am like really interested in working in that team, I would really like to understand
Right.
how the team operates. And
Right.
like in all of the interviews I have given so far, the one common question is, tell me the exact work item you're working on right now. What is the problem statement? Does it align to what I really want to do?
Right.
In the next phase of my career, do I really want to even work in it or not? So
Right.
a lot of times also what happens is, in a data science role, there is a lot of data analysis work. In some of the companies, that is true.
Yeah.
So when you interview, you understand that, and then you can understand whether it is okay for you to actually go for that team also or not.
Right.
So, and that also reflects from the other end how interested you are.
Right.
If you ask questions, if you have no questions, it might also imply that maybe you're just not that interested in getting into that company. So
Right.
that's another thing.
Right. So if anyone ever wants to prepare for how, if they are not sure what to ask an interviewer, a very basic questions that you can ask is, as Niharika said, what they are working on, ask about that. You can ask about what they really like about the company. Well, I don't know if it's important for other people, but I think it should be a very important thing to understand how the team is, and whether the work culture of the team is very cohesive, very they have a lot of team building exercises. They give you an opportunity to learn and grow. That's something that you should always ask a company, because a lot of people don't, and then they are stuck with the company for a couple of months. And it's important for you to have your time allotted for your self development, where you're not doing something related to deep learning, machine learning, or something like that, but there is an entire world beyond technology which is very important. So if you're working in a product based company, what is a product, how do you come up with designs and ideas, and that's something that you can expand on while working in a company. So do ask what what are the development and what are the career growth opportunity that a company might have. So these are the few questions that you can ask. So maybe a quick hack that I used to do was go on their career website and their work culture website, and then see what they offer, what they say that they offer, and then ask questions like, how is the team like, and what is something that they actually love about the company. If they don't like something about the company, they would be like, it's a nice company. But it's also important for you as well. I think it's people are just very interested, and I understand why people are so much interested in going into man companies. Obviously they are big tech companies, but it's very, very important for you to understand that your interest aligns with the company's vision as well. If you don't like data analysis kind of a thing, and you are going into company which does a lot of data analysis, you might not enjoy your work, and you have to get up every day to do the work, right? So it's very important not to go after a company, but the role and what are the vision of the company. That's something that you should be interested in. And more importantly, the first priority should never be the company, but the projects. So see what projects are being offered, what are they working on. Are they working on some image data, or are they doing some kind of analysis? So what is something that interests and excites you? That's something which is very important. So yeah, that's pretty much we have for the event. So if you like to conclude.
Yeah, I actually agree to you. And there's one thing which I really follow. So there's something like there's a dream company you want to go in, but a dream team is much more important than a dream company, because company is an overall thing and your world and your life is dictated by the team you are in, by the projects you're working on. So they are much more important than the company.
Right. People are still, I don't think people are always like, I want to get into Google, I want to get into Meta. And it's great. If you are interested in what they are doing, that's great. But I don't think they should go and focus on just those companies. But there are a lot of companies that they can look into, and it's not, the end of the world if you're not getting it. So don't be devastated. It's something that you need to think about, what project that you are given. And I personally feel if you are starting your career, getting into startups or mid-sized company are a very good place to work in, just because you're given a lot of responsibility and something that you are going to learn a lot in a medium-sized company, in a startup. When you progress and you think that you are at a stage where you can, just, and it really depends on person to person. So I'm not saying that a big tech won't give you that opportunity. I'm just saying that if you are not able to secure a place, don't be devastated. It's fine. You can do it later on. But the first focus should always be your project and the people. Because if you get into a big company, and if your team is not right, if your team is not very supportive, it won't be a very easy journey for you. Because if you are stuck, there aren't people who are responding to you, and it can get very stressful for you to strive in that environment. So it's very important to have a good working culture and team.
Yeah, I can give an example. I can give my example for it.
Sure.
So basically, when I joined Microsoft, I am from the machine learning background, but the team I got, so they randomly allot teams, and the team I got in was completely working on the front end part. There was no, like, machine learning was far away from it. And then I struggled for like 3 months, and I found my way, and then I switched my team. And these things, actually, the experiences make you realize that the team is much more important than the company, the tag, the names. The names look very good from the outside. They look very good on LinkedIn. Definitely, they do. I don't, like, I totally agree. The names look good, but the work and the people and the culture becomes very important, because that is how you spend your entire day. So the day is governed by the work and by the people around you. So those things become very important. So okay, so let's conclude the session. So even if you think you aren't 100% ready, your preparation is not like 100%, still do not be afraid to apply for a job. Because I personally feel I never felt I was 100% ready when I gave the Microsoft interview, or even when I gave the Walmart's interview. I always felt like I won't qualify. But then I am working there, so I did qualify. And I feel a lot of people are underconfident in those terms. And sometimes the job descriptions are also very intimidating. They write so many things. You should know everything in the world, which comes in those fields. So it is very difficult to know everything. So whenever even you read about any job description, if you qualify even 50 to 60%, go and apply for the job and see what happens. And stay consistent with it, and do not worry even if you fail. So these things happen. And ultimately, if we keep on trying, so the only mantra is staying consistent and keep going on, and don't worry about the failures.
Right. Very well said. So we have 5-10 minutes allotted for Q&As. So if we can actually have some more Q&A, like questions that you would like us to answer. I think we have some. What's the best way to pick a project and work on them?
Okay. So I feel the best way is look at the applications of the field, whichever you feel is interesting. whichever application of the field you feel is exciting, pick that, research about it,
Right.
and make a project out of it. Since you'll be excited about it, so you won't leave it in between, and it will not be a burden for you. That okay, you're doing a project, you need to put that down on your resumes. That is why you're putting that much effort. And stay, and obviously, since you're interested in it, you'll stay consistent also.
Right. Very well said. So what are the signs of a good data science team?
What are the
What are the signs of a good data science team? So I think it means that when we say that a good team or having an amazing team members or a good team is important, what exactly does it means for you, I think?
Okay. So I think for me, the manager should be understanding. There should be enough room for exploration, and collaborative team members. So if I have, it's a good team.
Yeah, I think for me also, if you can communicate, if you're like stuck and there would be a time when you're not able to solve a problem alone, and if you, how confidently you can communicate through your manager and how what they actually do to that problem, how they kind of solve that problem, how they assign you to a buddy system, and maybe a senior position engineer is working with you trying to help you. That's for me a good sign, a sign of a good team member. If you drop a message that, hey, can we connect, I'm lost somewhere, I need some suggestions, some brainstorming session, they're always there. So that's very important and a very healthy work culture that you would want to have. The next question is, I am working as a software engineer now, and I'm interested in transitioning to machine learning engineer. I know that there are many differences in the job requirements and interview process. What would you suggest is a good starting point to prepare for all these? I think projects. I think projects are a very good starting point. Just do projects. Maybe Niharika, you can help me with this. But because these both of them, data science and machine learning, has different types of projects. So the type of project that you do might help you land a role in the similar field. So if you do more machine learning, deep learning training models, you might land up a role as a machine learning engineer just because you have more experience doing the projects in that field. But as Niharika said, that there is no point in applying for those jobs. Go ahead, apply for data science jobs, apply for machine learning job. The difference would be the only difference that you're gonna see in those area is the kind of project that different companies are working on, but that's pretty much it. They both have a similar process. Study about the company, what they are working on. Something that I used to do is, if a company is working on image data set, if they're working on recommendation system, I will see what the company is working on and how that thing kind of works in theory, try to implement it in a small project kind of a thing, or at least read about it, because I know that they would be interested in me knowing about the about the tech that they are using, or about the problem they are solving. But Niharika, can you also answer this question if possible?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I completely agree to you. Projects is definitely the way, but let's say you're somebody completely new to the field, you do not know what machine learning is. So then what do? Go and study what the definition of machine learning, what is supervised learning, unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning. You'll get one article online which will explain everything. Start with supervised learning. As you study the classical ML algorithms, you study the basics, make a project out of it. You study an algorithm, make a project out of it. Then when you have enough basics with you, then you can directly pick up projects. So let's say you saw sentiment analysis somewhere, and then you understood that, okay, this has been solved by ML. There's a model which solves sentiment analysis. Then you can build a project out of it. So if you do not, the answer is, if you do not know completely what ML is, go and study a little. You can do a short course also you can audit a course on Coursera by Andrew Ng, which will give you the basics of what the field is like, and then you start building projects.
Right. I think this would be the second last question. Do you think masters in data science or masters in computer science is better, or do you have advice which program to choose? I think we can split it into two questions. So there is one thing that I read above is maybe do we really need to have a master's degree in computer science or data science? And if you don't have it, how we can, how you can go for those jobs? I think that would help answer 2-3 questions altogether.
Okay. So I have seen people who have not done masters and are still doing data science roles. They are still having data science roles. So it is definitely not mandatory to have a master's degree. But if you do not have a master's degree, it is definitely a little difficult to get shortlisted. That's the first part, which is what I have seen. It's a little tough. So how do you get in? How do you get shortlisted is having a good resume. So that's the solution. And this again reverts to having projects, good projects. So everything is connected. You need to have good projects anyway. So even if you have a master's degree with you and you do not have projects, so then also you need projects.
Right.
So that is the way to go.
I think the good answer for every question is spend time on projects, and that's it. Don't focus on anything else. Invest time on projects. I think the last question is from which platform can we select projects? I don't think there is a specific platform. Anything that you like, you are interested in, you can just do. As Niharika just mentioned, there is no Mang-worthy projects. There are no specific project that's going to land you a job. It could be, a house price prediction. It could be, football, some kind of analysis. It could be anything that you like. Till the time you are investing your time with different approaches and coming up with as accurate solution as possible, it's a good project.
Yeah, and I feel if you go by the area you're interested in. So I was talking to a guy some time back, and he was really interested in stocks. So when he started with the stock price prediction project, he has done so many things. He has tried so many approaches in it because he's already interested in doing that. So just pick an application of it which you feel is interesting and start building a project out of it. It's very simple.
Okay. There are some time left. So there is another question. I'm a data analyst interested in being a data scientist. If I want to actively look for a job, what would you recommend? And how would I approach on applying these jobs? What would be the process?
So the job application process is exactly the same what we have discussed in the slides, right? The job application process obviously doesn't change. Now, if you are a data analyst and you're trying to approach a data scientist role, then again, you need to have a resume which justifies the data science role. So unless you have a resume for it, it will be difficult. So again, work on projects which justify the role and then start applying. So like we discussed in the slides, you apply via different job portals, or you apply via referrals, or you find startups which are working in the area. But you need something in your hand to say that, okay, I have tried all this. I have worked on this so far. So please give me a job. So I want a job, basically, in simple words.
Yeah. You can also do, if you're already working as a data analyst, you can share your interest with your managers, that because it's not very different, then they are slightly different, yes, but you can share your interest with your managers or your senior that you are interested in a data science job. You can start with some personal growth in the sense you can do some courses, you can start doing some projects. And once you have some projects in your hand, I would not prefer going for a certification, because sometimes, most of the time these days, it's very expensive. So it's very important, if you invest your time, as Niharika said, invest time building a project, and then reapplying with the same approach, that work on your project, highlight what you're working on, adjust your skills, adjust your resume based on the job posting, and ask referrals. If you're interested, you can say that, hey, I'm working as a data analyst, I'm looking for a data science job. This is what I have done in data science. You can find some projects, and do have a good GitHub. That's very important. Invest time in building your GitHub, show that you have already worked on some of the good projects, and then you can move forward from there. Okay, we still have just a couple of more questions. Okay, I think we have answered most of them. Okay, do you know where beginners can join team to complete project to learn from experienced professionals? I'm not sure exactly what does that mean. It says, do you know where beginners can join team to complete projects to learn from experienced profession? I think Kaggle is a good way if you want to team up. That's what you're saying. Like if you want to team up with people who are already working on projects, hackathons and Kaggles are a good way to, buddy up in building a project. But I would suggest, don't think too much on Kaggle if you are very much focused on working as in a company, because Kaggle would require a lot of your time to be invested there. It's like a full-time job working on a Kaggle competition. So maybe hackathons are a good way. In that way, you are networking, you are talking to people from different companies, from different positions. So I think that could be a good way, and you can tie up with new people. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all of the questions. Cool. As we don't have a lot of questions now, I think we have answered a lot of them. Okay, so there's one question which is there about README files. What is the best approach? Add only the objective tools. Add only the objective tools, technical requirements, and also document the results and copy graphs there. So if you can explain how we can structure README on a GitHub for a project. Niharika, can you hear me?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the network, there was some network issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what's the question?
So if you can explain or give just a brief about how we can structure the README of a GitHub projects.
Okay, I can see the question. What's the best approach? Add only the objective tools, technical requirements, or also document the results and copy graphs there. There's no harm in documenting the results and copying the graphs there. So I think basically it's like a document which can have everything. And even if it is not required for anybody else, let's say you make a project today and you look at it 2 years later, you are in the same company, you won't go and see the project again. So if you have documented it so well, which contains everything, starting from the objective, the tools and the technical requirements, that's from the code perspective. But if you also document whatever approach you took, so that's the first approach. What are the challenges you faced? These are the results. Okay. And basically include everything in it. And if you have some comparison of 2 or more approaches, you can even include that in your README file. So there is definitely no harm in adding more things into the README. It's a plus. That's what I can say.
Right. And also, I think if you are working on projects, so on GitHub, you can have a PDF where you have all the approaches that you have tried, and README could only be about what the project is doing. So what is your, if it's automating something, or if you're doing some kind of analysis, whatever your project is doing or function is doing, you can add that information, and then you can just add a little bit more information on how, what your basic function is doing, and share some results. So the thing with GitHub README is it can be something, it could be very personal and customized to you, what you feel is important to go on that. It doesn't have to be a very structured one, till the time it's easy for anyone else to read it and understand. So yeah, till the time all the information is there on GitHub, it's fine. Anything is okay. Okay, I think we did answer the question, which platform can we select the projects? There is no platform. You just, just find something that a topic that really interests you. You can just go and select a topic from there, and think about, if you're interested in football, you can come up with any questions that you think. You can Google some projects that you might be interested in. If not, if you don't have any ideas, what you can do is go on Kaggle, find some good data sets, and from there you can form a project yourself. But honestly, it would be better if you kind of come up with a project yourself. So if you have a data set, let's say you have a flower related data set or animal data set, definitely the basic option is to go for a classification problem. But what else can you do from that data set? From that classification, how you can make a product, or some kind of service that you can do with using that animal data set, that's up to you. So really you don't need a platform. It's something, what data set is available and what you can come up with. So you can use your imaginations in that way. Cool. So I think that's all for today. Thank you so much, Niharika, for answering all those questions. We answered quite a lot of them. And thank you for sharing all these insights. And I really appreciate taking out some time and having this event with us. And hope you do well. Have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you so much. I hope this session was somewhat useful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was very helpful, actually. This, I've also taken some notes that I might use if I ever want to, share it with any of them. So yeah, notes are already taken. And thank you so much for your time. Cool. Okay, then bye-bye.